It was upon a llama's night when corn rigs are bonny. You
know what's fucked up? That's probably what a lot of those people were listening to when they went to Epstein's Island, like in this movie. Must have been listening to some of that, like, Wicker Man music. And with that being said, hi everybody. Welcome to the Gassy Hallows podcast. I am Pumpkin Jack, coming live out of the Gassy Hallows today, accompanied with... We can't see your guitar, sir.
I can't hear it either.
Your audio went out, sir.
Oh, it did?
Yes, it did.
Respect it though. That would have been lovely.
Yeah, just try again. It's okay.
Take two.
Take two, sir. We're live, but take two. It's all good. Oh, he's fixing his audio up. Got it. Did you get annoyed, Robot, that he tried to set you up and tried to outshine you, so you sent the glitch his way?
I'm annoyed that it didn't work. Like, it was something beautiful in the making, and it got ruined by technical difficulties.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear me.
Now we can.
Now?
Yes.
Yes.
You hear that?
No, for some reason it's tuning out the guitar.
I think the gain is too high.
The muffle thing might be... Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can do something about that on my end to help people out here.
Wow.
There we go.
Weird.
I hear something.
Yeah.
You hear
I
that?
sort of hear it. There must be noise suppression. Turn off noise suppression on Discord. You might be able to hear it. You should have told us what you were planning on doing, sir. We could have planned technically for this.
Okay, well, can we start over? Can we do something about that?
Oh, God. Okay, fine. People, look, take two. Hold on. I'm going to play the song again. Yeah.
I had no idea that it would, like, tune out the guitar.
It's all right. Hi, everybody. I'm Pumpkin Jack, and I'm coming out of the Gassy Hallows, accompanied with...
Red.
Mm-hmm. We don't hear...
And Bolt.
If you're trying again, sir, we can't hear the acoustics. It is just telling everybody F you. Wow.
Okay. Hold
The Wicker Man is just not cool with your guitar. No, it's like telling us to F off. We can't hear it.
That is...
That is so weird.
all the time.
This is too funny. This is too funny.
What's also...
Hold on.
What's also weird is, like, as you try to talk, it's like blocking you out. It's like you have noise suppression turned on. On Discord, if you go to our chat, there's a thing that has noise suppression. That might be what's doing it.
Oh, yeah.
If you see where it says video connection, something that says power. Let me see if I turn it off, what happens. Alright. Try it. Yeah, it says crisp or something like that. You just gotta turn that off. That might be what's doing it. Ironically, the one time you're actually trying to use your sound, it's not letting you use it.
For A plus for effort.
We kind of hear it. Yeah, we heard something now.
But I can't hear you.
Me? Oh. Hello? Hello? Okay. How about now? You hear me now? Bolt, you hear me now?
Yeah, I've been hearing you.
How about you, Red? You hear me now? Effing guitar stunt.
Oh, man. 5 minutes in, and I had something with the output being put to something else instead of what you're expecting.
Well, fortunately, no one's tuning in just yet. Our common viewer is having a chat with the wife, so.
Oh man.
Well, you can go ahead and introduce yourself. This is about as an epic as intro we've gotten around here. So, robot technical difficulties, Bolt, everybody.
Hello, how's everyone? This is non-Sergeant Bolt reporting for non-duty because I'm on my union break.
Yeesh.
Of course, it will happen on a 50th episode. Of course. This is on YouTube looking really bad. Needs to be a 720. There we go.
Here we go. Got it.
All right. Okay. Are we doing a take 4, or we're just gonna?
Yeah, we're doing
Okay,
take
tell
4.
me if you can hear this. If you can hear this, then we will, okay?
Yes? Question mark. We
Tilt
heard like
your
a
microphone a little bit towards you, and that might do it.
Yeah. A little bit.
A little bit more.
Let me change the thing.
Because we heard the first strum, and then it kind of comes in and out. I look kind of evil from the way my camera's positioned right now.
Yeah. Just a wee bit.
You can sort of hear you. Fucking Discord.
Yeah, as they say, fuck it, we're doing it. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live, yes. That's my favorite video.
Yep.
All right. No dice. Ah, shoot.
Well,
That's weird. That's weird.
where is my perfect one for this? There's something I have here for that.
I'll add it in when you edit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah.
Can't things just be exactly what I want them to be?
No, they can't. I learned that the hard way. I tried to do this one too.
When they fired Andrew Beckett because
Yeah, I can't get the whole thing. So, anyways, today we're discussing Epstein. What's the name of this movie again? I was inundated with so many current events as I was watching it.
It is called The Wicker Man.
Ah, yes.
73.
73 is the Wicker Man. There is no Nicolas Cage in a bear costume punching people in this one, folks. That is epic, and it is funny to see Nicolas Cage in a bear costume punching a random woman, but that's not what happens in this one, folks. Not at all.
Wait, hold on. Jack, your mic is doing the very muffled thing where it's like every other word.
Hold on a minute. How about now?
Alright, it's not doing it right now.
Yeah, I turned back on the noise suppression.
It was against us, perhaps. Perhaps because our audio is failing, we need to offer up a sacrifice.
What
I
the?
said we sacrificed the
All of a
robot.
sudden, Ray.
You sounded like a robot too over there on your end, sir.
Oh my goodness. Is this the episode cursed?
It might be.
Oh my goodness.
One second. Let me
How's that?
actually deal with one thing here. You're going
Alright, well,
up.
while you do that, I'm gonna go find a tissue because my nose is leaking. I'll be right back.
Alright, I raised the volume on your end so that way you actually are more audible. Sometimes I realize that when I listen back, you sound in. Sometimes you don't. And then sometimes I sound like crap.
Okay, but you can hear me right now.
Now I can hear you. Yeah. So stay in that position. You sound better now. Yes. Yeah,
Okay, I mean, I've never really figured out this microphone.
me neither. I have one at home too, and I've been wrestling with it until I was having so much fun when I was using my Razer one when I first got it, and I installed it, and I'm like, ooh, the Bluetooth is working perfect. It worked fine. And then the computer freaked out, and suddenly that microphone does not want to play ball with me anymore, even though that was when I sounded the best on that one, my Bluetooth wireless mic that I have at home.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll get you back.
All right. So, with all delays aside, gentlemen, say it again.
Are we still live?
Yes, we're still live.
Yeah.
We've been live. We've been live for about 10 minutes.
This is riveting podcast. Oh my gosh. Nobody has stopped listening. I'll tell you what.
I tell you what, this is the most entertaining time.
I don't know about that Wicker Man.
You know what's weird is that's coming back.
You were brought here as a fool, Hank. All the villagers, they know.
Please excuse my French, but you're an idiot.
I just like the pretty guitar music and the food.
Oh, dang old
Wicker Man.
Dang old Wicker Man, don't burn out that dang old pretty lady, man. Dang old go next door, man. Sleep, man. Shoot. Oh boy, the Wicker Man. So, how do we? Who wants to lead us in on this one?
So I'll lead us in.
Yes, please do.
So this is a 1973, as we mentioned before, British film directed by Robin Hardy, written by Anthony Shaffer, loosely based on a novel called Ritual by some guy named David Pinner, starring Edward Woodward and Christopher Lee. Mainly. And an absolute cult classic. If you dig around online, you will realize this film is much beloved. There's endless online discussions. You can piece together the whole movie probably on YouTube. Everything is there. There have been festivals that have been based on this movie. You can check out blogs that have tours of people going to the filming sites, most of which I think all of which are in Scotland, and just a very beloved movie, and one that I love. We'll see what you guys thought.
Well, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm not gonna lie, but I also like some of the themes in it, and I also like that it leaves you wondering whether there is or isn't something supernatural going on, and it's strongly implied that something isn't.
Oh. Right, yes, that's something that I want to talk about.
Yes, but in summary, the story of this movie is self-righteous detective stick up his ass. Officer Howie decides that...
Police officer
Howie decides that it's a good idea. Shut up, discount John Connery. That's what you were in this movie, and you were a virgin. I have to repeat that. You had some kind of stick up your ass about having sex with that pretty blonde lady next door. Okay.
Joke's on you. Your audio's cutting out.
Yeah, good.
Oh my! This
episode
is stuffed.
This episode is brought to you in part, ladies and gentlemen, by bad audio and the Wicker Man. Blame the curse of Leonard Nimoy and Jennifer Aniston. That's what's going on here. Anyways, the story of this one is discussing Officer Howie goes to this island to search for a little girl that he got a letter that had gone missing. Very unwittingly decides, hey, it's a good idea for me to go and inspect this and follow up. I'm not really a detective. I don't have the authority to be detecting, but I am going to go ahead and do this and do my best to find this little girl, because I'm a self-righteous idiot with a very judgmental mindset way of being. So, as he gets to the island, people are trying to seduce him. He walks past Epstein's Island. People just having sex in the mud, staring at him all happy while some hippie music plays in the background. Like this. Then they also try to get him to bang the landlord's daughter with this weird folk
That was weird.
The dad was legit whoring his daughter out. I'm like, okay, this is a thing.
Well, what I love about that is that when they're singing the landlord's daughter song in the pub, the father is laughing along. So in the pub, they sing this really, really bawdy song about how everyone has had sex with the landlord's daughter, and she's there. she's standing behind the bar, laughing and dancing along, and and her father is there, and he's laughing at all the jokes, like, "LOL, yes, I know that my daughter's a slut."
Yeah, my daughter's a town bicycle. Everyone's had a ride. Shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like you get the sense that, and there actually is a scene in the final cut of the movie. I sent this to you on YouTube, where it is explicitly implied that having sex with Willow is like a rite of passage that it seems like all men on the island go through. The appropriate end, or the appropriate age. I don't know. It seemed like it.
I actually did read that.
Yeah,
like, it's everyone has had a chance at her. It's a rite of passage, and that was like them trying to tempt him, and he stuck to his faith and chose not to have sex with the blondie because he was engaged.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't seem very happily engaged from the sounds of it.
We don't really hear anything about his fiance. In the longer cuts, we do see her at least briefly at the beginning of the film, and I don't know. They're standing in church together. They seem pretty happy.
Okay.
Do not remember any of that.
No, it's in the longer cuts. We saw the basic cut. There are like I think 3 or 4 cuts of this movie.
There are at least 4.
Mm-hmm.
There are at least
so I'm missing context.
The thing is, when there are cuts of a film, it's depending on what each individual person editing it thought. That's why there's always a director's cut, because the director's like, this is what was allowed, this is what I wanted in, but it wasn't allowed in due to the gratuitous amounts of nudity. So on the chopping room floor, we decided to delete these meaningful scenes to keep the nudity in, to draw in the horny teenagers that snuck in to see our movie. That's what usually happens, oftentimes nowadays, anyway.
Okay, yeah. Well, sometimes they do cut movies that are like body and long. They cut out all of the stuff that like fleshes out the story and keep in all of the nudity. But that's not what happened with this movie. I actually think that the original theatrical cut, which is the one that's on Tubi, that one is great. I mean, that's all the other the stuff that's in the director's cut. Or I most recently watched the final cut. I don't think I've seen every cut, but the stuff that at least is in the final cut, it's not really necessary. You don't really need it for the story. In fact, this is a criticism that I read of the final cut. That one scene where that I was just talking about, where Lord Summerisle brings the young man to the pub / lodging house, and is presenting him as, like, next guy that's going to have sex with Willow. The criticism I've read of that is that that's the first time that you see Lord Summerisle in that cut, and it kind of ruins his dramatic appearance later in the movie. Because in the cut that you saw, he doesn't appear until like halfway through the movie.
Yeah, you hear his name, but you don't see him.
Yeah, you meet him in the mansion. It is a better way of introducing that character, I think.
Yeah, very So I'm gonna compare it to something else that this movie actually did inspire. If you're a fan of Resident Evil 4, apparently this movie did inspire that a little bit. Resident Evil 4, like they did go to an island and there's like something going on the island in search of the president's daughter. It's like plot for plot. But when you finally meet Christopher Lee, the Summer Lord, it's very interesting because he kind of looks like a final boss type character. He's very like out there. He looks like an evil Willy Wonka, especially for Christopher Lee. Like, I'm like, now I wonder what that would have looked like.
Right.
A
much more dignified Willy Wonka as well. A candy maker, perhaps, but I hoped not an unenlightened one.
You imagine that scene we was on that freaky ass boat when the lights start going off and shit. If it would have been Christopher Lee saying, surely we must be rowing. I'm like,
Yeah, no, instead of
Meanwhile, they're fucking Christopher Lee shouting, "Is it raining? Is it blowing?" Ah, yeah, no.
Instead of getting turned into a blueberry, you get thrown into the Wicker Man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
my boy Charlie.
Do you guys have any? Do you guys have any just like general thoughts on this, like general impressions to start with?
I knew that guy was up to some shit the minute I saw him. I won't lie to you.
Which one?
Christopher Lee. Like the moment the Summer Lord comes out, I'm like, you're up to something because of who you are. I saw your face already. I know you're doing something. I know it. I don't know what you're doing, but I know you're guilty of some shit. I don't know what it was. It was like he was very cooperative, and I'm like, you're too cooperative. You're too nice. I don't trust you now. But I did like the way he looks. This is the most. Sorry, go for it.
He's just like, you must do as you see fit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's a very unique look for Christopher Lee. He never looks like this in any of his movies. He looks pretty like haggard. Very clean cut, haggard, hippie kind of look for him. And every movie I've ever seen him, he's very like genteel and proper. And then in this one, he looks like he's a fucking nutcase. I'm like, yeah, you lost your mind, buddy, when that crop didn't give out, did you? Yep. It's okay, to quote Hank Hill, it's okay. There's only so many wedges a man can take before he falls to pieces. Good luck to you, buddy. Like, that would have been my reaction. Good luck to you, buddy. Now let me off the sign, or I'll kick your ass.
So my favorite quote from that episode is when Bobby, it's just been exposed to both of them that he's in like this tarot cult, and he's doing like some sort of incantation dance in the kitchen, and Peggy says, "I may be a mother, but I'm also a woman, and I know a girl repellent when I see one. I want grandchildren. Hank, fix this."
Yep. Oh, trust me, lady. I know one when I see one too, and that was, if there's ever one, that was the moment. As soon as I saw this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Sometimes there is a time where you have to just tell someone, "Look, you are never getting a girlfriend if you keep this up." So, anyway, Adrian, what did you think?
I thought that honestly, I thought I was watching the wrong movie. Because that did not feel like a horror movie at all. There was no scary element, not once, in this film, in my eyes. I felt like it was just a dark comedy. What was that other thing? Like a dark comedy. It's just really musical. That's it. Yeah, because like I forgot about like the odd placement and usage of music in this film, and just like this people just abruptly just breaking out a song and dance. I'm like, why the hell is this going on right now? This man is literally trying to find whether or not a girl is alive or dead, and you guys give him the worst runaround I've seen since one of my last jobs. Like this is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the children are in on this.
Well, like what? Like how it kind of brings up those genre questions is something that I want to talk about. Yeah. Well, if I may.
Yes.
So this is probably my favorite horror movie, honestly, and I would call it a horror movie. We're gonna get to that. If not my favorite, definitely top 3. And definitely one of my favorite movies. Like easily top 10. And it's because like it's exactly the sort of movie that I love. It's got that Rosemary's Baby, get out type plot where an outsider stumbles upon some conspiracy that the locals have going on, and one that turns out to be centered around him. It's a very folk horror-y thing where the conspiracy is basically understood by everybody except the main character. Also, it has my favorite kind of music in it. The kind of finger picky, bagpipey British folk music in it. It's one of my favorite kinds of music to listen to. It's my favorite kind of music to play. I tried to play us something earlier, but the microphone wasn't cooperating. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the movie. And I mean, I would agree that it doesn't really feel like on the nose a horror movie, but it's definitely creepy. And I often prefer that to a movie that's like out and out scary. So I'm a huge fan of this movie. In fact, actually, on a Halloween of 2021, I made myself a Wicker Man costume. So what I did was I tied together a bunch of sticks into something that I could wear over my chest, and I made these little cutouts of flames and animals, and there was one in the middle, supposed to be Sergeant Howie.
Make sure he was a virgin, right?
You can't tell. You can't. Well, who we can sometimes we can.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yes, yeah. Guy in the middle going, "The Lord is my shepherd." Anyway, yeah. So one of my it's also, you know, I've got it. You know, like I've been saying, I have a history with. It's one of the horror movies that my dad showed to me as part of my like cultural education that he put me through. So yes, I love this movie.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's just so much. Just like this movie's like so wild that I can only start at the beginning to start discussing this, because apparently there are situations like this out in the UK. I looked that up. Mm-hmm. There are like isolated islands that are modernized. However, they do pretty much continue to practice pagan cultural rituals and stuff, because they sort of reject the mainstream religion side of things. But I'm like, wow, that part is real. But they're like, yes, these places exist. However, they are inherently peaceful, not dangerous.
That's
of course, that's what
highly
they
debatable.
Huh?
Of course, that's what they say. So, like, is the story of these places that they're isolated and so paganism has survived, or it's a community that was Christianized at one point but then turned back to paganism? Because in this movie, I mean, the way that it's interesting. The way that this movie is often summarized is that it's this isolated Scottish island where paganism survived. It was untouched. But that's not what it is. Like, it was Christopher Lee's grandfather came to the island and brought back paganism to the local people. So it's a neo-pagan community.
Yeah, so yeah. I'm assuming it's like that for some of these places. Like, they just decided to go back to practicing their original roots and stuff. So,
which makes it disturbing that one of the things that Christopher Lee's lineage decided to bring back was human sacrifice.
But even then, the human sacrifice, like, I will get into it, but I honestly think that the human sacrifice is a way of him kind of trying to keep some kind of shamanistic power over the people.
Okay, so yeah, that's something I wanted to ask too. Like, do you think that Christopher Lee is a true believer?
I think he believes his bullshit. I just think
he actually thinks that it's going to bring their crops back.
Yeah, I think he does, but I also don't think it's going to work.
Yes, that is the implication.
Like, I think he believes it. I just don't think he thinks it's gonna work. And then I also think when when Sergeant Virgin starts saying like, it's next year they'll burn you when this doesn't work, and he's like, you're the heretic or whatever. Shut him up. Burn the witch. Burn him. Like, it's kind of like he knows that it's not gonna work, but he thinks it's true. He thinks if he follows along this line of reasoning, it'll go well for him. But I also think he secretly knows it's bullshit. Like, he knows this is not gonna work. It's not a feasible thing to be trying to pull.
Because that's a moment where it feels like Howie has bested Summerisle in their banter. Because when he first meets Summerisle in the mansion, Summerisle like seems to be the smarter guy. Because when Howie is saying that, like, what, you've got these girls who are dancing through the fire, and you're teaching them fake religion, fake biology. What is this? And he says, "Have these people never heard of Jesus?"
Mm-hmm.
And Summerisle goes, "Himself, born of a virgin." What is it? Himself born of a virgin, impregnated by, I believe, a ghost.
Yeah, he tries to do that genteel sort of schmuck.
I mean, like, that's a very touche. That's a very touche moment. But I think that, I think at the end, when Howie says, like, your crops, sacrificing me is not going to bring back your crops, and when that doesn't work, the only person that would work, the only person that's more valuable or powerful than me, at least that you would have a shot at sacrificing and it brings your crops back, is Summerisle. And Summerisle has this look of like, whoa.
He has that Johnny Depp face where he's kind of shocked in the corner, like.
Yeah, it's a stoic face, but he says it, and he says they will not fail. But he says it where you get this sense where he's trying to sound like he's saying it with conviction, but he's shaking a little bit.
Yeah, he's trying to sound confident that this is gonna work, but in reality, like, you don't think you don't seem like you think this is gonna work. You seem to know this is a gamble on your part, sir, and you're hoping it's gonna work out for you.
There's even a moment where Howie is like, tell them, it's not going to work. I know that you're an educated man. It's like Howie kind of has the most respect for Summerisle out of anybody on the island.
Well, it's his direct opponent. Like, he needs to get through this guy to be able to survive and walk out of there a free man. And if this guy doesn't want to go with it, then he's going to be screwed. So he's trying his best. But it's unfortunately not the best. It wasn't the best idea. Like, you're trying to get somebody who is in firm control of a community to agree with you and then turn on the entire community when he has them all dressed up and everything ready to go. That's not going to work. It really isn't.
Oh, man.
All right, so you said you wanted to start at the beginning.
So when he gets there, for some reason, I already had a feeling some shit was going on, like the minute he got there. Because those people were kind of like telling him to go away, and he wouldn't go away. Like, this is private property. We don't get people here. Like, what are you doing here? And he's just like, I am an officer of the law, and you need to allow me on my investigation. I'm like,
this is private property. You can't come here without written permission. Can you send a dinghy, please?
Yeah, like, first off, when you go to a place like that, you're supposed to announce you're going. You can't just go. Like,
right? Yeah.
As someone who studied ICJ, right, I was always curious about the UK. When I was in college, I loved British stuff, so I was always curious, like, how does it work in England? In England, first off, he's far away out of jurisdiction, because he's like, what, 3 or 4 hours away, right? On planes, like an hour or something out on land or some shit. And to row back, it would take a week. So he's way out of jurisdiction. He has no jurisdiction on that island. That island, like, has to have its own police force handling this shit. That is an interesting thing to note, is that the island doesn't seem to have its own. It seems to
true of some islands.
It seems like they have a local thing, but it's more so a community watch in that. Because there are places that are like that. Like, they don't really have police forces, but it's a community watch. Right, and like the community has like their own things and the radio in on the mainland, but mostly like the size of that place, it looks like it would have its own, like, at least its own 2 or 3 like 1 sheriff and 3 deputies, right, who would be handling that because of the type of things that go on there. No, I actually think they do. They just don't make an appearance to not interfere with the scam that they're running, personally.
Maybe. Yeah. There are a few things about the setup that I will admit are a little far-fetched. Like that aspect, like, where is any kind of law enforcement on the island? The other aspect of it is he goes to the island because there was a letter that was personally addressed to him with the photo of Rowan Morrison included. And you wonder, like, wait a minute, like, that doesn't seem like an appropriate way of reporting a missing persons.
Because it's not.
Missing person. Like, no, you should like call the police office, and then they send whoever is able and willing to go. And yeah, it just seems like it just seems like a bit of a far-fetched setup as far as like getting Howie there. But it is a movie. That is something that I'm willing to forgive.
So I would knock that point if I hadn't heard cases like that happen in real life.
Okay.
Like, I've heard stories about like self-righteous cops kind of intervening in shit when they're not supposed to be intervening in the first place. Like, it wasn't your jurisdiction, it wasn't your place to be, and now the person's going to walk free because you're doing something you weren't even supposed to be. You're out of your limit. The moment you found out about this, you're supposed to take up the chain.
So they're playing on his pride.
Yeah, like, he is a very self-righteous. That's like one of the questions I asked you guys. Like, it was his undoing his own self-righteousness. Like, this was addressed to me. I have to be the one to handle this. And I'm like, brother, as a policeman, you should know that what you're supposed to do is pass that to your sergeant. And then the sergeant passes it to the Scotland Yard. And Scotland Yard is the one that will handle this, not you. Yeah. Why are you going there?
Yeah, well, something that I think is his undoing is, his overconfidence. Mm-hmm. So there are moments in the movie where the deception that's being employed by the villagers, it's just a little too obvious. Like, there's the missing harvest photograph in the bar. There's the empty desk. It's sort of like there's clues that there's a person whom they're trying to hide. And you get the sense as a viewer, like, I know these are clues that someone has gone missing and they're not telling him about it. I know these are supposed to seem like clues that they know something they're not telling him, but they're just too obvious. There's got to be something more going on here. But Howie still falls for it. He thinks that he's finding clues. He thinks that he's spotting things that they've overlooked. And so I think that, because he just had so much faith in his own instincts on that, where it's like, as soon as he sees, he doesn't question his first interpretation of it. It's like, oh, missing desk. That means that there's a missing girl, and they know about it. You know, which there's a version of that is true, but he's not digging deeper. He's not thinking like, wait a minute, that was too easy. There's got to be something more complicated going on here.
Yeah, like, so I actually spoke with somebody who lived in the UK for a long time. I used to chat with this guy, and he used to say that one of the things that happens a lot out there is that a lot of people fail to understand, right, that cops have to go through a whole sort of search and seizure and a whole bunch of stuff, even in the UK. But one of the things he said that he found very fascinating is that this guy is so wrapped up in that where he's from is the best place. At no point does he start to consider this may be the entire island in on this thing, and I am literally in the lion's den, as it were. To cover this up, to bury a bunny rabbit in the corpse, in a coffin. That's not one guy doing it. That's at least like 4 people. Two guys are digging it. 2 guys are putting that rabbit in the casket and then throwing it into the ground. Mm-hmm. Right, Bo? Better turn off that. I'm about to turn you with the sound bolts.
He eventually No, I mean, when that happens, that's kind of the tipping point, I think, when he starts to suspect some sort of murderous conspiracy. Like, he's willing to go back to the report this. What he fails to understand is that it's not Rowan that's at the middle of the murder conspiracy. It's him.
Yeah, like, he fails to get it, and I'm like, dude, how are you not realizing you're being set up? Like, the whole time, I'm like, you are being set up and being set up so hard, and you don't even see it. Like,
yeah, and I like the twinkle in the eyes of the villagers whenever he interacts with them. Like, you can see that they're kind of having fun with it. It's especially true in that very scene where Howie digs up the grave that turns out to just have the hair in the coffin. The grave digger the gravekeeper just starts to laugh, like, in this kind of, boyish, mischievous way. That actor, by the way, is in Orange.
Is in what?
He's in A Clockwork Orange. The guy who's the gravekeeper.
Who is he in A Clockwork Orange?
I tried to watch A Clockwork Orange, and I just found it so disturbing that I had to stop. He's towards the beginning. I don't know what the character.
I'm gonna assume he's one of the Droogs.
Yeah.
No, that is one of those films that, if you go into what I studied, you kind of have to learn to stomach it, and then you have to learn to appreciate it. If you can't stomach A Clockwork Orange, you do not belong in that field. Period.
Yeah.
Because stuff like that is. Yeah, like that stuff that happens in real life, like the stuff that happens in A Clockwork Orange, even though it's set in the far distant future, stuff like that does happen. So,
you know what I think it is? I think part of it was that they're using the language that Anthony Burgess invented in the book, and it's just like, I don't know. When I was watching it, I'm just watching rape and violence, and there's no story that I can comprehend because they're not speaking in normal English. So I'm gonna try this one again later.
I had to read, like, our teacher, what he had us do was read the first few. In the book, there's like a bit of the slang, right, that tells you what's what.
Yeah.
What's the milk, the Ludovico, horror show, and all that stuff. He tells you. So once he tells you what that is, when he's talking, you understand what the hell he's saying, because Stanley Kubrick didn't feel the need to tell you or explain to you what the hell he's saying in that whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like in this one, like, they don't tell you much of any. That's British horror, though. Like, British, like, suspense. They don't really like to share anything with you. You have to kind of go on the rabbit trail and find it yourself.
Yeah. This is The Wicker Man is definitely a slow burn. One of the original slow burns, perhaps.
Yeah, it is, and it's I honestly think it's the OG, and it is one of the classics, at least for folk horror. I saw all of the references in this one like crazy. I could see right there. I'm like, oh, Midsommar right here, May Day celebrations. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That one where they put the head in the sword. I'm like, you're out of your mind going to do that one.
Yeah, you don't have Midsommar without the Wicker Man. There is an interesting difference between this and Midsommar, though, is that in this one they're a modernized society.
Yeah,
they dress in, like, regular Western clothes. They eat food out of cans. They ship food off the island. They have bars. They have a post office. It's like it operates on the surface pretty much as just like another Scottish island, but the paganism is kind of simmering underneath. Whereas in Midsommar, it's a totally alien world. Like, the strangeness of it is not something subtle that the characters eventually discover. To be sure, it does get weirder and weirder in Midsommar. You wouldn't have much of a movie if there was any weirdness that wasn't obvious at the beginning. But it is much more a visibly pagan culture in Midsommar.
Well, yeah, 100%. But also, what I am going to say about this one is, it looks modern on the front because it is, but I also like to think it's an idea of what it would look like if a pagan religion were the mainstream. Right, Bolt?
Hey, that's one. That's one way to paint modern paganism. Just orally dicking around a officer from the mainland and a rabbit and then stuffing it in a box and having the Gravekeeper assist in digging up said box just to keep fucking with him. Like, we could have just told him to fuck off, but no, it was just, we keep fucking with him until we're ready to kill him. Oh yeah, the girl alive. Spoilers warning.
So since you mentioned dicking around, we just gonna ignore that orgy he walked in on in the park when he was on his way back to the when he was walking around?
Absolutely. Like, we're just gonna ignore that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's the first sign that something strange is going on.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, so that's what Epstein's Island looks like. I was about to go cool, but then I'm like, that's not cool.
Allegedly.
Is it cool? No, right? Yeah. It's crazy.
One of the things that I find funny about this movie, because that's another one of the things that I love about this movie, is that it's funny. It's a bit like how we were talking about Rosemary's Baby a couple weeks ago. Like it's not just a straight fright fest. Like it's funny. So much that Bolt, you mentioned earlier that you might even consider a comedy. I would almost consider the Wicker Man comedy. Anyway, but one of the funniest aspects of it is just like how incensed he is when he encounters either sexuality or sexual imagery in the island. Like that scene where he catches them like all having sex on the ground. That's not really funny, but there's other scenes where it's just like the sexuality is just so obvious. Like you have a phallic topiary. It's just like sex is just everywhere. That is just like so pervasive. They're so obsessed with sex that they're carving penises into their bushes. Yep. One of my favorite moments in the movie is towards the end when he's looking through the houses, where he's just thrown up his hands and said, okay, you know what? No one's going to tell me where she is. I'm just going to look every house until I find her. And he walks into the room and he sees these two dolls on top of a bed, and they're in missionary, and he just like slaps them away, like, get to this shit.
Yeah, I saw that too. I saw that. I started chuckling. I'm like, yep, they're fucking with you. You made a mistake. You went and announced what you were going to do, and now they know what you're going to do, and they're leaving you shit to bother you because they know you're a virgin. Like I that's how I interpreted that. I'm like, they're leaving it there to mess with you because like the island is totally cool with sexuality. You're the prude in this situation.
Yeah. So I do get the sense that like all of this was just placed there to toy with him because they're kind of having fun with this. And as we learn in the end, to make him a good sacrifice, he needed to be a fool, and playing pranks on someone is I guess a way of making out of someone.
It is 100%.
Yeah, so it's
went overboard. Like, they really went overboard, though. You gotta admit, like, there's being me made a fool, and then there's what they did to him.
Yeah. No, it's not like every day they're having sex on the lawn in groups.
I kind of feel like they are. I don't know why. I feel like that's a common thing, and they're like pretty happy. It's like that's what they look forward to at the end of the day. I'm gonna go get plowed on the lawn, on the park grass today. It's been a tough day. I'm just gonna go get plowed on the grass. And the guys do the same way. They're like, damn man, my boss is a douchebag. But you know what? I'm gonna go pop me a Quaalude, and I'm going down to the park and find me some cold pussy, and just go in there and go to town. I have a question for you guys. How would y'all react if you saw that? Would you like do a 180 and go back into the bar where they're singing about you banging the bartender's daughter, or would you just kind of just walk along like he did?
walk along with the intention of
Because
getting a better look.
Because he just kept walking. He just kind of kept walking when he saw that. And I'm like, I don't know if I would walk, because it looks like they're trying to get you to join, and he doesn't have the intention of joining. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't join that one myself. Like, I didn't come equipped with a condom today, brother. Y'all seem like you trade partners like a revolving roulette here, so I don't want to gamble on that one. It's the 70s, AIDS is a thing. I'm out of here. But
honestly, I would just hop back on the plane, because I'm like, okay, no. If like I'm there for less than 5 minutes and you already have a whole group of people in the bar singing a song about me having sex with the barkeeper, the housekeeper or whatever, it's like daughter, and there's people also finding time to go have sex on the lawn, and it's like, yeah, no, I'm going in my plane and going home. I'm going to marry my wife as soon as possible. And we're gonna forget this whole mission. Like, fuck that kid. I don't even know that kid. The kid could be alive for all I know. Like, they're not paying me enough for this.
I mean, in all seriousness, no, they're not paying enough for that shit. That's a very, like, I get out of my face moment. I'd be out of there.
Like,
but I think the plane was done by that point.
Was it? I think it was done by the following morning.
Whenever he decided, but I think they probably busted it up the minute he left. Probably went in there and disconnected the wires, and then like they just said, all right, we're out of here.
No, they got on their boats back to the mainland. They're like hired actors from London.
So, there's just one other thing I wanted to ask you guys. And this one's a philosophical question on my part.
Yeah.
In horror movies, I actually see this as a theme a lot in horror literature from like way back, from like the beginnings of the modern age. Christianity is usually treated as a sacrifice in horror movies. I realize there's a common theme of that. There is an idea that he's rewarded for keeping to his faith. That his death is sort of a reward, that he will be, reunited with the Father in heaven with the rest of his ancestors or something for what he's about to do, because he's a pure human or whatever. But I've asked myself this question sometimes. Is it worth it doing that, to deny yourself the joys here on earth with the hope of with the faith of eternal life? Because I've made fun of him for it, but he is a very staunch up his ass Christian virgin. And I have to say that he's very wound up about himself.
So this is actually one of the ways in which I would defend him as a character. Sure, he has a stick up his ass. Sure, he's very judgmental and impatient with the people there, but he really is a man of conviction. And in the end, he's still proclaiming his faith. I believe in the life eternal as promised by our Lord Jesus Christ. And he says, you might kill me, but it's I who will live again. Yes. What is the line? Let's see. Oh, yes. I am a Christian, and as a Christian, I hope for resurrection. And even if you kill me now, it is I who will live again, not your damned apples. It's like, that actually kind of hits me somewhere. It's just sort of like, he's right with it to the end. And he actually does, we could chalk it up to arrogance, but you could say that it's a courageous thing to stay on an island where that there are hostile forces around you, and yet you're rescue the girl. He dons the full outfit, he joins the parade, and when he sees Rowan, he goes right for her and he tries to get her away from danger, even though he's cut off from the mainland. He can't get back to the plane, he can't get the plane working, he can't contact them. It's just like he does show some genuine courage.
Yeah, I will say he is courageous in what he's doing. But at the end of the day, like my one question about that is, 'cause it's a common theme. Like there was a story that they showed us in college from the 60s where this family is on a road trip with their grandma, and then they get pulled over by somebody they think is a cop, and then basically the family is taken hostage, and like the theme is the field is limbo, but the dark woods is representative of hell. And every time the deranged guy has a gun at them and he doesn't they don't follow instructions, like they're dragged off to the woods and shot in the woods, right? Like it's a story that they showed us in college, like legit. And the guy's kind of like, I am the man in the devil, and I come to do the devil's work, or something like that. And the reason why he doesn't kill the grandma is because the grandma has a cross that she's clutching for bitter life. And the author pretty much states that when everyone else is being killed, the children, the mother, the son, her son, the husband of the family, they're all doing something that's inherently disrespectful. And they're all inherently not doing as she says, to just pray. Mm-hmm. But when she's killed in the end, she's looking up. And the idea is her looking up means she ascended, whereas the rest of the family is killed in the woods, symbolic of where Dante begins his journey ascending into hell, right? Like, it's one of those things. So after I'm watching this, I'm like, this is around that time where this dude, he's the protagonist, we're with him, but I guess like the attitudes in those days were, because of all the stuff that was going on, stick to your convictions because there is a long-term reward in this versus the short-term reward of being human. But then I go, but we're only human for so long, and then we go off into eternity where we're not human and we don't know what we can do or can't do. We're just promised paradise, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Weird philosophy. I'm like, I don't know, man. I could not have made it all the way to being a police officer without touching a woman at some point in my life. That's a lot of dedication.
Sure, yes. Well, I mean, I think on that, I would say that, you do your best to live as a Christian and maintain that conviction. And even if you do slip up, there's forgiveness, and we're redeemed not by our own works, but through Christ. And I think that one message that you can take from a number of horror films is that though there is evil in the world, Christ has the ultimate victory. So that's the message that maybe not the message. Like I can put on my Christian critical lens and look at the film and see the ending as that very message that, sure, he does get sacrificed, sure, he does burn to death in the Wicker Man, but still he keeps his convictions, and Christ still has the ultimate victory.
Yep. And I actually piggyback on that because I honestly don't think that this is anything supernatural to what's being done. Those crops aren't going to grow. And what's funny is that the clue is there that the crops aren't working because he's like, you're an island known for your fruits and your vegetables. Why am I eating anything out of a can? Yeah.
I suspect they've all been exported. Which, by the way, on that, so Britt Eklund is the one who plays Willow, the one who presumably has...
Thank you. I'm going to go look her up now.
Yeah.
what was her last name? Britt
Eklund. So she, I think later, it would have been after this movie, she becomes a Bond girl.
She looks like a Bond girl.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but so her performance is kind of complicated because she plays Willow on screen, but it's actually a voice actress that is dubbing her. because I'm not sure exactly what happened, but she's a Swedish. She's not actually Scottish, and I listened to an interview with her, and she said that she was like doing a Scottish accent on camera, but after shooting, she found out that they dubbed her with I guess the person that's doing the voice is Scottish, or at least was able to do a better accent than she was. So, and that actually kind of made sense to me, because the sound of her dialogue, little, I don't know, like too clear or like too loud. Even like I always felt like it didn't quite match up the character, and I always wondered why. So there you go. But another part of it is that in the most famous of her scenes, where she's nude and she's dancing and she's trying to tempt Howie from the room, the parts where she's doing like the really intense dancing, where you see her from behind, that's not her. That is the story goes. I don't know if the story goes that they hired a local to do those particular shots.
I wouldn't be surprised. Back in the day, using a body double was a common thing.
Yeah, but she wasn't made. Apparently, she wasn't made aware ahead of time either of those decisions, so she felt after.
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah. So she plays Willow for the most. Britt Eklund.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting design choice.
Yeah. Well, so that scene where Willow is tempting Howie from the other room, I wondered on this last viewing, wait a minute. The point of bringing Howie to the island was that they needed a virgin. They needed someone that was, unblemished, had not been deflowered yet. So why does Willow try to tempt him? If she succeeded in tempting him, then they wouldn't have a sacrifice. They wouldn't have a proper sacrifice, or at least they would have less powerful.
I guess it's for the integrity.
So why does she do that? What was that?
I guess it's for the integrity.
What do you mean?
So you can say a lot of things, but sometimes you have to be put to the test. And there's a naked chick, like legit, kind of calling you in, and he's not wearing an engaged. He's not like nobody knows he's engaged, but she's calling him in. So with the fact that she's calling him in, and he's like, no. That's kind of like, okay, yeah, there's more little tests to verify that this dude is the real deal.
Yeah. Okay, so you saw it as a test of like seeing if he is the real deal. I saw it as a way of preparing him to be the best possible sacrifice. I saw it as a way of kind of like making him into someone who had not only never had sex, but had endured the temptation to have sex and still resisted. I saw it as a way of like preparing the purest sacrifice.
I think it's a bit of both.
I think it's a bit of both. And that's like really in theme with the way that they explain, because they have the courtesy of explaining to him exactly how this works, which is a nice gesture to give to someone that you're about to sacrifice.
How very polite and genteel. How very British.
Exactly. How very British. So by pulling all these tricks on him, by making him feel like he's a little bit, by luring him into donning the punch costume, the fool costume, that's another way of like into the fool, because they needed not only a virgin, but they needed a man who came here a king, and someone who was a fool, and a fool who would be king for a day. But a fool would do that as the school teachers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like a lot of this movie, just like painting back through it, you realize that so much of this was just them like preparing him to be a sacrifice, the way that you would prepare a lamb or a rabbit or like a meal to be sacrificed or something.
Well, no, I agree. Like, I feel like it was a sense of preparation. I just feel like it was more of a sense of verifying that this dude is legitimately what he says he is. He's not just cosplaying a virgin, cosplaying a Christian. In the 70s, there was a big attitude about that back in the day. Like, there were a lot of, like, I would hear about evangelist Christians that were coming up that we hear about today, like those guys that they claim to be devout, but then, you know, they're not really devout. They're just using it as a way to get the collection money or using it as a sense of status and control. So people like that, I remember hearing that you start hearing about that in the 70s. And it starts in the 60s, you start hearing more about them in the 70s, and then in the 70s, you saying you're a devout Christian is not necessarily they don't take you for a word for it anymore. Like, now, like, really? Yeah. You for real? Yes, sir. I'm a big believer in the Lord Jesus Christ. I saw him myself one day climbing up on the hill of the mountain and said, heck, you got to go out there and spread the word of the Lord. And I just asked everybody to give me a bit of money so I can go on and continue to spread his word. What if we don't give you the money? Well, it would be great if you did. Yeah, go fuck yourself. It started happening more. That was the energy in the 70s that started kicking in, and that's when, like, the rise of grunge rock started to happen. You start seeing that stuff because those kids are like, why are we going every Sunday and giving 10% of our paper out? Because I would hear stories like you giving $1 is not enough in some communities. They want that 10%, and when they know what you make, they want the 10% of your paycheck in the collection plate. It's crazy. So you start to hear, like, those things start to get dismantled, and then you go into the situation with this guy where she's like, are you for real? I know a way to make sure you're for real or not. No sane man would turn down a naked blonde woman just calling in, come over. Like, if you're engaged, yeah. Like, at first, he's like, I'm engaged. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's not gonna happen. I don't believe it. That you should do this before you marry. I'm like, oh. So you don't even keep the Mrs. Satisfied at home or future Mrs. Satisfied at home. Gotcha.
But and I like how the morning after, when Willow is, like, you know, tending to the room, and she's like, I thought you were going to come and see me last night. I invited you. And he's explaining to her that, no, it's nothing personal. I just don't believe in it before the marriage. And the way that he's, like, putting on his watch, like, with anger, like, he's just like, she's like, I could have had sex with her.
Good.
Look like a going to withdrawal.
I mean, if you believe that that's wrong and it's a limitation on your behavior, it doesn't mean that you don't want to do it. You know, that's what temptation is. When you're offered something that you want to do, and when you resist it, you don't do the thing that you want to do. And, you know, it can be meaningful. Frustrated.
Yeah, it's like that Offspring song. I know I should say no, but I'm just a sucker for idea bills. Yeah, you have to know that song by the Offspring, but it's like, it's true. Like, you want to do it, but you don't do it because you have a moral code not to do it, even though you want to. And it's normal. Everybody does it. Everybody has that one thing they want to be doing that they should. You know, they shouldn't do it, but they want to do it. And I honestly took it like that with her. Like, I honestly thought she was tempting him. He passed the temptation test. The waters and the environment were like, dude, you can totally go and hit that. Everybody does. And we're more than happy to look the other way. Good luck. And he's like, no. I have a question for you guys, Bolt Manley. Would you guys have gone into the room with her singing and shit?
Yeah, go into the room with the woman that sounds like a wailing banshee. Just avoid me for a sec. Like,
Hey man, once you get in
Yeah,
there,
she-
you do what you got to do. She might not sound like a wailing banshee no more. I mean,
if she didn't like was passing around from like everyone in the pub, maybe. But like, yeah, knowing that just ugh. Like if I didn't know that she had done that, and if she didn't do any of the wailing, it would be way easier to say yes to.
I have a better question for you. What's more disturbing, hooking up with this chick or going through what the guy in Midsommar did? What's more disturbing?
Midsommar is disturbing. More disturbing. That is
I would go for Midsommar because at least with Willow
You're on your own, right? You're in a self-isolated room. It's on your own time. You're not having the entire chorus of old women start pushing your ass in there.
yeah.
Whoa!
maybe you'll get medicine.
I mean, since you had musicians downstairs playing, they were like accompanying her singing. You know, like everyone knows what's going on.
Everyone's in bed at this point, no, because she was also in her room, and it was like night at like complete night. So I'm assuming everyone went home, and it's just
No.
like everyone's in.
It cuts
Okay,
to
so there's
musicians.
nothing.
It cuts to musicians accompanying her downstairs.
So I actually got another
That's weird.
question
Yeah,
for you
yeah.
guys, which to me is kind of a weird one. Did you know that there was a planned sequel for this movie?
I did, yeah. I knew that there's a lost sequel. I didn't really read. There is what Robin
Oh,
a spiritual sequel to it. It's called the Wicker Tree. It came out in 2000, and I've never seen it. I've heard
I
it's,
was
you know, like,
I was going to watch it. I chose to skip.
Even Robin Hardy has admitted that it's not as good as The Wicker Man, but you know, how could it be? That's my view. How could it be?
I'll tell you how. You get Nicolas Cage in a bear outfit, and he runs
yes.
20 yards and punches a woman across the face and shouts, "Walker, Walker, whore," as he does it. And I think that would have been Oscar worthy right there.
In the Nicolas Cage version, I haven't seen it.
I didn't see it neither. I just seen the online smart Alex talk shit about it because it's funnier that way. Like,
Yeah.
but he just in a bear costume punches a woman right across the face, and it's just fucking weird when he does it. But you're like, okay, yeah, we've hit the weirdness apex point here. He probably did a bump. Well, all right, woo! And then he like ran up, pow!
I think it'd be scary. I think it'll be scarier if he actually did that while Cole's sober. Like, nope, he didn't need drugs. He just did it off of pure natural energy. But I'm very tempted to see that movie just so I can just watch my brain cells just die as fast as they could possibly can.
Just like watch your memories disappear.
just fly away like on a jet plane
Yeah.
and crash and burn.
Yeah, your tiny little John Denver brain cells. I'm leaving.
On a bet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. I used to watch
Brain
that.
cells do not go back. Anyway, so what do you guys think of the music? Speaking of that,
I thought the music was damn good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the highlights of this movie to me, the music. What I like about it was that it's very, like, eerie, but upbeat,
yeah,
which gives that perfect tone that, like, everyone's oddly happy around here. Is this what it's like when Diddy comes to Disney World? Like, people just know he has the money to turn out the lights around here, so they're, like, scared but oddly happy. And then, like, suddenly you look to the left and Goofy's having sex with Minnie in the hot tub with the baby oil. Like, is that what happens when this happens?
This is gonna age well.
what about you,
It's
Bolt?
gonna age so well. I The music helps my point of like, this does not feel like a horror movie. This just feels like a very elaborate prank that took a hard left turn into, yeah, we're just gonna kill him to make sure we get to eat our food this summer. It's like props. Like we need food. Find this obnoxious police officer, see if he's down the bone, and if he's not down the bone, let's just set up an elaborate series of events, and if everything somehow pans out, we will kill him, and we will get food again. And no one bats an eye. Not even, especially not the children.
I mean, I could have solved this whole movie. Just use Miracle Grow. You don't need a human sacrifice. Just go to Home Depot and get some Miracle Grow. This episode is sponsored by Miracle Grow. Anyway,
Hey, no free shout-outs.
Who the hell is sponsor? So yes, like I said at the beginning, I absolutely love the music for this movie. This is it's probably the movie that I had gotten into this kind of music. I saw the movie. I think that maybe that's what maybe that's the reason why my dad wanted to.
Cut out the worst possible moment.
It showed out right as though you were making your main point. Your dad showed you this, and then.
You guys are gonna love when you play this back. This is gonna be a treat.
I don't know about this one. This might be give it a few years and we'll do the Wicker Man again.
Yeah, we probably will. When then fucking Leonard Nimoy chills out on us, he's still pissed at me for some reason.
Yeah, he's still. What's his deal? What's Leonard Nimoy?
I don't know.
Anyway, I was saying that it might be one of the reasons.
It might be one of the reasons, and it tempted out right there again.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make that point then. Okay, but the way that if someone asked me, what's the music like, I would say it's like if the first 3 minutes of Stairway to Heaven were just made into a musical. That's basically what it is. I just love how it's kind of like a mix of this sort of really traditional sounding, like really ancient sounding Scottish folk music. Like the very first music we hear at the beginning it's just voice and some kind of bagpipe. Like at the very beginning where you see him. Then it goes into the song, which sounds much more modern, because it's got a guitar, which is a newer instrument in Celtic music, actually. Like you've got Willow's Song and Gently Johnny, which are both these kind of beautiful yet eerie songs, and I think that that's a really good representation of just like what folk horror is, because in folk horror you've got these pretty things that are also, namely nature. So like a theme in folk horror is that you're seeing nature and it's really pretty, but somehow it feels hostile to you. Sometimes somehow it feels like there's something not quite right going on in this thing that is on the surface pretty. And those two songs really represent that for me. And also it's just like I just really like that kind of music. A lot of the people that, if you're interested in exploring
a lot of the people that music,
what? Sorry?
A lot of the people that what?
I can't even understand what you're correcting.
You said a lot of the people that, and then it fucking cut right out again. Because
okay, I heard enough of what you said to know that you said.
And then I didn't hear what you said right there neither. We're like two fucking boomers in the 90s learning how to use internet out here right now. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. I don't know, guys. Maybe we give this one a break.
So here's what I'll just leave it at this. If you're a policeman and you find yourself in an orgy, partake and they'll leave you alone. If you go to the church the next day and you confess your sins in the confession box, you are forgiven. As long as you're sorry you did it for survival. That's all. And maybe I should burn the virgin so we can get some more viewership around here. Think that'll work? We put someone in a Wicker Man outfit. We burn the virgin in the Wicker Man suit.
We're not made of money. We can't afford to do that.
The hell we can. I'm out here in Pennsylvania. I can find some wicker shit. Just go ahead and do it. But
you're gonna build it by yourself?
Yeah. Anyways, one thing though I will point out, though, since you mentioned that the people in this town are pretty obsessed with sex, I know I've been joking about Epstein's Island all night, but it makes me wonder if that's not what goes on in that community. They're talking to kids about sex very early in, and it makes me wonder if that's not what's already going on.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, you've got, like, elementary school about phallic symbols, which, you know, remember my tirade on phallic symbols?
It's a wiener. Yep, I remember.
Yeah. I mean, it's their culture. It's their culture, so I have to respect it.
Well, in this case, it is the culture, though. Like, it is all about that, but it makes me wonder, like, are people getting down in this community a lot earlier than in most places?
I would imagine so.
You're asking questions you do not want the answers to.
Well, maybe I do in the name of the Lord.
Howie says, you know, like, I've been wondering what's on this island, and now I see that in the school.
Yeah, they're pagans. That's here that said that any stupid things. I mean, shout out to our little girl that put a frog in her mouth.
Yeah, that was gallant, as Willow might say.
Alright, so any other final thoughts on this one? Because the audio is always telling us to go fuck ourselves. So,
yeah.
Final thought is maybe we give this one another shot.
You know what? Yeah, I actually do want to look up something else with this one.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to say we should revisit this one in a bit more time from now, because I want to look up. I heard a lot about parallels with this movie, and that there are actual communities now that celebrate May Day, and they do the festivals. And I've also heard like that there was Wicker Man accounts of the Druids in Julius Caesar's archives.
Yes.
So now I'm like,
yeah. So that's one of the only classic first-hand accounts that we have of any activity or contact the Druids. There's some corroboration of the Wicker Man thing. There was a Greek writer. I believe he was earlier than Caesar, who wrote a second-hand account of the same thing happening. So there's Caesar's writings aren't historic. We have of it. It's pretty much the only. Yeah, I think it's the only first-hand account. But something to remember is that Caesar was writing this with the intention of conquering these people. So he's probably not the best source for an accurate account of what they were to. You know, like he was motivated barbarians.
Yeah, he was motivated to conquer them.
Yeah, but then again, that's a weirdly specific thing to, and sometimes that tells me that might be true.
Yeah, I wonder if it is or isn't. I'm inclined to think that it is, considering some of the stuff you hear pagans were doing. You know, hanging people upside down by the feet and draining them from the head. Like, all right, yeah, burning a dude in a Wicker Man outfit, although in a Wicker Man statue, although intricate, isn't far out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah, and human sacrifice. The impression that I've gotten in the little bit of research that I've done on the Celts and the Druids and human sacrifice, that it probably did happen some, but it was rare, because we have some writings. There is some scholarly evidence of it. You know, some stuff that was written down, but there's also some art evidence. of it, at least one piece of archaeological evidence. So, probably rare, but probably did happen.
So in Europe, it did happen. However, I learned this in class a long time ago. In Europe, the sacrifice was a normal thing. However, it wasn't as normal because for all we tout about Europeans being, the civilization, the cradle civilization, classical Europe was a very hard place to survive. If you look at England as a whole, there's no sun most of the time. So how are you growing anything? Right. Whatever's there is there.
Yes, especially not tropical fruit.
Yeah, like what are you growing? You're not gonna grow anything. It's either really cold or really no sun. You got nothing. Make your way towards the Spanish archipelago, the Spanish areas. You might grow between Spain, Italy, and Portugal. But once you start going back towards France, you find yourself in the same problem. It's very cold. It's certain parts of life, but not much. So for those people to go around sacrificing one another, it's kind of like, no, we need him. Why? We need another astronaut to pull his head. So don't sacrifice this guy. That's like the general demeanor I learned. That was, what?
I don't think they got a lick of that. Yeah, your mic is really acting up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, fuck the microphone. The Wicker Man refuses to let us participate.
If you can't hear it, I'm gonna play my guitar.
That's right. Watch it work now.
Yeah, watch it work.
No, it's still not. It's still being a bitch.
Okay, unless you get to see me play.
Yeah, we see you playing. We hear it in our hearts.
I can.
And with that note, do you have any final thoughts? The robot, the only one that can be heard and says nothing.
Pagan!
Kind of ghetto to take home.
Alright, I'm going to play us out with a better song. Alright, everybody on Diddy's Island.
So long, everybody. Wow. We are destined to not talk about this movie in a way that we present.
No, it's not. That's why I'm playing P. Diddy music, because fuck it. Yeah.
Why? Why would you do that? No!
Because that's what's going. What happens in P. Diddy's life was what's happening on this island. Alright, everybody. I was Pumpkin Jack. Hopefully you hear a little bit of this.
So we've got Diddy and the ghost of Paul Giovanni coming after us. Paul
Diddy's not even dead. Epstein's dead, at least. But Diddy's not dead yet.
Yet, when that conviction comes through, we're gonna buy. The next meme is gonna be Diddy do it or didn't he do it? Diddy didn't do it. It's gonna be the next meme.
I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that. I'm too much baby oil.
When they find him like drowned in his baby oil, it's gonna be like Diddy didn't do it. That's gonna be the next meme. And on that note, we'll see each other again next time, folks.